New options on how to keep your kids safe this school year. What changes Wake County schools are considering right now. Plus, a parasite outbreak still making people sick in North Carolina. What health officials are and are not sharing so far.
Rumbles of thunder are possible tomorrow. The hours for rain and the newly formed system we're watching in the tropics.
We are, 2 weeks now from the first day of school, if you can believe it. The Wake County traditional school year about to begin. There's a lot to consider before then. School meals, technology in the classroom, and priority number one, school safety. Thank you for joining us here at 7 o'clock. I'm Dan Haggerty. So right now, the school board is meeting to figure out how they will move forward on safety for this school year and beyond. WRAL's Aaron Thomas joins us live outside of that meeting. Aaron, give us the lay of the land. Security, of course, top of mind for parents.
Yeah, most certainly, Dan. In fact, this meeting is still underway, and we have yet to hear them talk about the school security and safety portion of it. But after speaking with some of these county leaders, this really is making sure both the Board of Commissioners as well as the Board of Education that they're all on board. I mean, you're talking about 9 different school board members, 7 elected county commissioners, and making sure that everybody's on the same page when it comes to addressing school security and things that matter to families. So in the event of an emergency, how is that information being communicated, through an email, through text messages, just making sure that everyone is on the same page.
Do we know what type of security upgrades, Aaron, that they will be considering in this meeting?
Yeah, so we can go over what's already in place as well as what's being considered. So a lot of this is based on an assessment that was done with the Wake County School Board of Education back in 2019. So we've actually reported on this. We've talked about the visitor management system that was actually put in place just last year. Earlier this year, the district implemented a clear bag policy for events like sporting events, as well as plays on campus after school. And in the event of an attack, of course, we don't want that to happen, but you just never know. The school district is also considering what you have called a shattered resistant glass.
So these county leaders, you were speaking to some folks earlier today about upgrades that would be made and the cost of all of the investment that it would take. What are you hearing about what can be afforded, what they can do?
Yeah, so of course we're waiting to hear exactly just how much in terms of, how much the school system is willing to pay for this. But when we talk about school security and safety, it's more than just preventing a school shooting. There's many factors. You have fire safety, you have the HVAC systems and the filtration. Of course, we saw a lot of that during the 2019 COVID pandemic. But of course, you have both county leaders with the county commissioner board, as well as the Board of Education, who say it's definitely worth the investment.
When we talk about school safety, I believe that to mean more than just things like school shooting, metal detector, but it's about fire safety, it's about school security officers, SROs, it's resource officers, it's about safe communities, and that's something that this Board of Commissioners is very invested in, is the public safety of our community.
Yeah, and there you have it. And of course, this meeting got underway right around 5 o'clock this afternoon. In addition to the school security and safety piece, you also had them discussing things like child nutrition, as well as being energy sufficient within the school district. Of course, we're going to go back inside this meeting. I have a live report for you beginning at 10 on Fox 50 and what families can expect this upcoming school year. Dan?
All right, get back in there. We don't want you to miss anything. Thanks for stepping out and giving us this report. Aaron, thanks.
This is Brian Schrader in the WRAL Live Center. I want to let you know about a crash right now that's slowing traffic through Garner. This is a crash with injuries on 70 Business eastbound, just beyond the Highway 50 interchange there. This is the Highway 50 bridge. That right lane apparently is blocked on 70 eastbound. This is a crash with injuries. We're working to find out how serious those injuries are. The DOT says that lane could be closed for the next hour or so you want to give yourself a little extra time.
Thanks, Brian. A 6-year-old girl is in the hospital on life support after police say her father shot her and her mother hours after he was released from jail. Daquan Jones is accused of shooting 4 people before turning the gun on himself. All this happening yesterday morning at a home on Weaver's Circle in Sharpsburg. Jones and the child's mother, Kiera Massenberg, had a history of domestic violence and threats. One of the other victims involved in this shooting is also in critical condition. The other is expected to be okay. Flash flooding caused some problems for some folks in Cumberland County. Rain from the thunderstorm this morning essentially had no place to go. The ground had already been saturated from the Tropical Storm Debbie. There was minor flooding in a few homes there near Hope Mills. We're told that these storms should not have too much impact on the Cape Fear River, which continues to recede, fortunately. Flooding in eastern North Carolina turned parks into rivers and left roads impassable. Crews in Rocky Mount are monitoring the Tar River as it nears the major flood stage right now, sitting at just over 24 feet in the deepest areas. People who live nearby are waiting patiently for that water to go down. Crews expect the water to recede over the next few days. Meteorologist Kat Campbell in the WRAL Severe Weather Center. We don't need any more rain, Kat. I know that there's spots of it in the forecast.
And, you know, luckily it's not terribly widespread tomorrow. We have about a 40% chance. And that would come tomorrow primarily during the afternoon. But by late morning, we could begin to see a little bit of rain showing up on the radar. So heads up, as early as 10 a.m., there could be a little something on the radar. Your best chance between about 2 and 6 p.m. for storms tomorrow. The storms tonight are closer to the coast, just one shower in Sampson County, as well as Halifax and Northampton counties. If we take a look at Tropical Storm Ernesto, this formed just 2 hours ago. It has top winds of 40 miles per hour, but it's likely to strengthen, coming close to Category 3 status as it nears Bermuda. The good news for North Carolina is we're not likely to see direct impacts from this system. It will bring a risk of rip currents, though. I'll have a closer look at a break from the heat and humidity on the horizon locally coming up.
All right, we'll talk to you then. Thank you, Kat. Another county now in our area confirms a case of a food-borne parasite. So when it comes to foodborne illnesses, we know the big names, the food poisoning, E. coli, listeria, salmonella, kind of the Mount Rushmore of stomach bugs. You know the symptoms, and they aren't pretty. But there are plenty of other foodborne illnesses. Enter cyclospora. This is a parasitic infection that has popped up recently in our area. It spreads when food comes in contact with feces, and the symptoms can last for weeks. There are more than 130 cases in Wake County, and just this afternoon, Durham County reported a case from back in July. Health officials think the outbreak is linked to vegetables and herbs. The problem is they don't know which ones or where they came from. I spoke to WRAL health reporter Grace Haba about what we do know. So, Grace, catch us up to speed. Where are we now in this investigation to sort out how people are getting sick?
Yeah, my hunt into exactly how many cases North Carolina really has and to determine where cyclospora is spreading definitely continues. I mean, even today, as you and I sat down to talk about this story, I got a text from a viewer saying someone else she knows has gotten sick and now they're going to get tested because they think their symptoms are in line with cyclospora. What's really adding to the confusion here, though, and the concern is that the state hasn't told us exactly where these cases are coming from outside of Wake County. So we don't know elsewhere in the state who has been reporting cases.
Still, though, knowing it's in Wake County, that people want more specifics. We've been trying to get those answers. It's been difficult to get them.
Yeah, a lot of people have reached out simply asking, hey, can you tell me what grocery stores or what restaurants to avoid? And really, Dan, the reality is we don't have those answers for you because the health department hasn't answered them for us. We want to know those answers, too. The closest thing that we've been able to figure out is that 3 local restaurants have been investigated. But again, in terms of the exact source, we still don't know.
Why? Is there a reason they're not telling us? Clearly there is.
Yeah, so the answer from the health department, the Wake County Health Department specifically, is kind of twofold. One, they say health inspections at those 3 restaurants that they looked into yielded no wrongdoings by those restaurants. Secondly, only 22 of the over 130 cases that we know of in Wake County were tied to the restaurants themselves. And they did say that none of those 3 restaurants were even in the same town in Wake County. They also say none of the recent cases either have been linked to those restaurants. And that then led me to ask about grocery stores, farmers markets. Those were also being looked into. And Dan, the short answer the health department says is yes, because right now nothing's off the table because, again, no direct source has been identified.
It kind of makes me a little uneasy. You really don't know where this is coming from. So what can we do to protect ourselves? What should I do?
The best advice right now that health officials are giving to consumers and for our viewers to pay attention to, what I've been following at my own house, is to thoroughly wash your produce. Make sure you're cutting away any bruised or damaged areas and to thoroughly cook your produce rather than eating it raw. because cooking it is going to kill any cyclospora. And Dan, again, we're going to continue to work this story, try to get our viewers that information, because we're just like you. We want to know, too, to keep ourselves and our family safe as well.
Grace, thank you. Up next, we will hear from the family of an 82nd Airborne pilot who was badly hurt by a drone strike in Iraq on Christmas Day.
Garrett's injury is like devastating. Seriously, if it was an inch slower, he would have been dead instantly.
She hasn't left his side since. What remains on his road to recovery? That story in just about 2 minutes. All right, I love this part of the show. I mean, I'm a little partial, but this is the part where I get to ask you at home to get involved with us here. Sure, my name's on the logo, but In Depth is about you. So please send me an email, dan@WRAL.com. We want to talk about what is most important to you. What are you interested in? Let's have a conversation about our community, some of the country, the community's toughest topics. We address them right here. Something that always gets the attention of the In Depth team is when rival politicians find common ground, when they actually agree on something. I feel like it really doesn't happen all that often, especially in an election year. So imagine our surprise over the weekend when we heard this.
We will continue our fight for working families of America. Including to raise the minimum wage and eliminate taxes on tips for service and hospitality workers.
No tax on tips. Where have I heard that before? I remember.
We are going to not charge taxes on tips, people making tips.
So Trump has brought this up a lot, including at the RNC last month. He and Vice President Harris appeared to agree on this. They think Uncle Sam shouldn't get a cut of workers who earn tips for good service. We asked the North Carolina Restaurant and Lodging Association what they think about this idea, and they sent us a statement that said, "We applaud both candidates for their interest in helping to support tipped employees by eliminating the federal taxes on the tips employees receive." But it's more complicated than that, as most things are that we discuss here on In Depth. Not everybody is on board with this idea. Economists think that we should tread lightly. A senior fellow at the Urban Brookings Tax Policy Center told NPR, quote, "How are we going to tell who is receiving a tip and when that tip crosses a line into wages? How will we prevent investment bankers, say, from getting tips?" It's a good question. It's a smart question. The Restaurant and Lodging Association has some questions, too. They closed their statement to us by saying, in theory, less taxes are always good, but we're eager to see how more details about how this proposal would work. So we're eager to see those details, too, from both sides. Maybe you are as well. What do you want to know about this no tax on tips policy? Do you support it? Would you benefit from it? What questions should our leaders and our journalists be asking about this idea? Send me an email, dan@WRAL.com. Tell me what you think, and we will go in depth. So let's shift gears now to a story that we have been following since Christmas. Garrett Illebrun, a pilot from the 82nd Airborne, badly injured by a drone strike in Iraq. Tonight, for the first time, his wife is telling the family's story. Only on WRAL, she speaks with WRAL's Ashley Rowe about the impact of the shrapnel that pierced his skull and the daunting road ahead, as well as how they're getting through each day.
One more time.
At the VA Medical Center in Richmond, Virginia, 82nd Airborne pilot Garrett Illebrun tries to relearn basic movements.
He's able to follow simple commands if those commands involve a thumbs up, a head nod, an eyebrow raise, a smile.
Speaking from their home in Pinehurst, Garrett's wife Lorna, a former Army pilot herself, says progress is slow but steady.
Garrett's injury is like devastating. Seriously, if it was an inch slower, he would have been dead instantly.
That devastating injury happening on Christmas Day 2023, while Chief Warrant Officer for Illebrun was walking on base in Erbil, Iraq. Lorna and their 8-year-old son Tucker were stateside. They had just opened presents when she got the call from an Army colonel. Shrapnel from a drone strike bisected his skull.
I just was devastated. I could kind of physically feel my heart breaking.
In the months before and after he got out of a coma, Lorna was by his side.
I just saw him and really wanted to just put my hand on his and let him hear my voice.
The helmet you see on him here is because he was missing part of his skull. Doctors at Walter Reed reconstructed it.
A, B, C.
And young Tucker is teaching Dad sign language during their regular visits. But the Illebruns face a daunting road ahead.
If Garrett comes home and he needs a wheelchair in the house, do we modify the house? Do we sell it? I have to try to think about how to be mom and dad.
Lorna is taking it day by day, centered by meditation, writing, and gratitude. A living example of what she told Garrett days after the life-changing blast.
And then I would tell him, and brave birds fly through the fog, and to just keep flying through the clouds. He can't see where he's going, but it's okay, just keep flying.
Ashley Rowe, WRAL News.
Oh, that is a family that needs and deserves our support. Best of luck to them. Meteorologist Kat Campbell joining us now as we take a look at the forecast here and what has been going on with the rivers.
You know, we've got improvements coming. Thank goodness we can see some improvements. You know, the Neuse River in Smithfield, Cape Fear River in Fayetteville, both improving now below flood stage. That will happen tomorrow for the Tar River and Rocky Mount, and the Neuse River in Goldsboro, the Tar River in Tarboro. We expect those areas to fall below flood stage by Friday morning. Don't forget, you can always get the latest river forecasts and really go deeper into the river forecasting on WRAL.com. We're going to be watching the Lumber River for a while, not expected to fall below flood stage until later in the week. We need sun to help dry us out, and tomorrow we have some, but tomorrow we still have a chance of rain and storms. That chance about 40% tomorrow, midday into the afternoon. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, those are going to be your best bet to finally get some sun, help dry out your yard after all the rain we saw from Debbie last week. It actually ends up being a pretty nice week for us. It's summer-like, but it's not as hot, and it's not going to be as humid either this week. The normal high is 89 this time of year. We're in the mid-80s for the next couple of days, 87 on Thursday and Friday, and 80s for the entire 7-day forecast. No 90s showing up just yet. Check out the sunset at North Hills. Enjoy the sun setting past 8 o'clock. We don't have very much longer. 8:08 is when the sun sets in Raleigh this evening. And we do have a couple of areas of rain that I'm watching in the northeastern part of our viewing area. I mean, these are just teeny, tiny showers, so nothing really to worry about much. No lightning in them. It's a good night if you want to do s'mores with your family. I know that summer is limited before kids head back to school. It should be a nice night for it. 9 o'clock, it's going to be around 78 degrees. Not so muggy tonight, 65 in Roxborough, 66 in South Hill. You know, not a huge change in humidity tonight in the Triangle with lows in the upper 60s, 70 in Fayetteville. But by tomorrow night and the coming nights, it is going to be feeling more comfortable. We even get down to 66 on Thursday morning. Tomorrow morning for your exercise, right around 7 a.m. we'll be in the upper 60s. By 9 a.m. we are back in the mid 70s. And hour by hour rain chances climb tomorrow midday, and then especially during the afternoon. I think our best chance of any rain or storms would likely come before dinner time tomorrow evening. And then rain chances down to 20% Wednesday. Thursday should be a spectacular day to be outside. That's when humidity is lowest. We are nice and dry Thursday and a bit more sunshine. Friday night, we could see an isolated storm, and then the humidity creeps back up for the weekend. Along with our rain chances, about a 30% chance of a storm Saturday and Sunday. High temperatures are going to be back in the upper 80s by the end of the weekend. And with the climbing humidity, it's going to at least feel more like the 90s out there. Dan.
Okay. Thank you, Kat. Basketball, soccer, rugby, track, swimming, even BMX. North Carolina was represented well at the Paris Olympics, and we're going to walk through the detailed medal count next. A UNC legend is heading into retirement. Anson Dorrance is stepping down from the women's soccer team. He has 21 national championships. That's more than any other Division I college coach. The decision comes just 4 days before Carolina's first game of the season.
It's the first vacation I've taken in my life that was longer than 1 week. I came back absolutely refreshed. And you know what? Melissa, kind of liked being on vacation for a couple weeks because I've never experienced that before.
It must have been a good vacation. Dorrance believes assistant coach Damon Nahas should be his successor, calling him the best coach in the country. He's already been heavily involved in the recruiting as well. So Team USA won the Olympics again. Sure, we tied China with 40 gold medals, but we ran away with the overall medal count, totaling 126. Many of those medals were earned by athletes with ties to North Carolina. 25 athletes with connections to our state won an Olympic medal, with 27 medals in total, 12 golds, 8 silvers, 7 bronze. You probably already know some of them, a lot of familiar names. Bam Adebayo, Steph Curry, and Jason Tatum. They won gold in men's basketball. All have ties to North Carolina. Chelsea Gray, a Duke grad, won gold with the U.S. women's basketball team. Crystal Dunn and Emily Fox of UNC and Casey Murray of NC Courage. They won gold on the U.S. women's soccer team. Paris Benegas of Fuquay-Varina took silver in freestyle BMX. Canara Hayes of Hope Mills earned gold in the 4x400 relay. That was her on the left there. Sammy Sullivan from Fayetteville helped the U.S. women's team earn bronze in rugby. 3 medal winners represent Duke. UNC and NC State have 4 apiece. They include swimmers, triathletes, basketball players, rugby and soccer players. And it's not just the United States. David Bettelheim got bronze in the men's 10K swim. He represents NC State and Hungary. Diana Snyder, she got silver in the women's tennis doubles. She also represents NC State, but competed independently since Russia was kept out of this year's Olympics. Carolyn Nicoli won silver for Brazil's women's soccer team. She also plays for the NC Courage. So much to be proud of. We're so fortunate to be surrounded by such great talent and inspiration. And it's like I tell my sons all the time, with roots here in the Triangle, sky's the limit. Thanks for making WRAL your choice for local news. We'll see you back here later tonight.
Keep watching WRAL News over the air Channel 34 and Spectrum Channel 1257.